Hi, I'm Debbie, and welcome to Book and Bujo, where I talk about all things books, bullet journals, and stationery. Today, we are going over all of the readathons that I am participating in June. So in the beginning, I started out with just 4 readathons that I was participating in, but then I kept finding more, and they were so fun and interesting. I wanted to participate in those too, and yeah. Not sure how many I'm up to now, but 6, 7, 8, I don't know. It's all fun, and hopefully I can just double up on most of the books that I already have on my TBR and use those for the different readathons as well and still have fun while participating. I will make sure to leave a link below in the description box to all of the hosts and their announcement videos for all of the readathons. I also chapter all of my videos, so if you want to skip ahead or just back and forth to the different readathons that you're participating in as well, feel free to do that. All right, let's start out with the year-long readathons that I'm participating in. The first one is Buzzwordathon. And so I have, if you can see there, Buzzwordathon here, all the different prompts that we have for each month. So for the Buzzwordathon with Books and Lala for June, the word is other, so you have to find a book with the word other in the title, and it can't be part of another word, so you can't use the word another or mother or bother. It has to be other itself. And for that, I will be reading Dark is the Water and Other Weird Stories. So it's got other right there. Yes, and that's by Susan Earlham. And I have actually started this, and the first chapter, so it's a bunch of different short stories all put together. And the first chapter, at the end, I was like, what was that? It's so weird. It's super short, just the first chapter. But it was almost like going into a book starting at like the second or third chapter. And so you missed what happened right before, but you don't have the rest of the book either. So you just have this one chapter, and it was just like, what was that? Like, thoroughly entertaining, but interesting. So I'm about halfway through the second chapter, or second story. And so far it's really interesting, and I can't wait to find out what happens. So Dark is the Water and Other Weird Stories by Susan Earlham. So the other year-long readathon that I'm participating in is Adventures in Aeldia, or Year in Aeldia by G at Book Roast. And this one is a choose your own adventure, which is super fun. So I've got one for each of my characters. For Ariel, who is my first character, she did finish Aurelium Academy, and that was in April. In May, she did stay at Aurelium and had to read a book that finished on an even page number, and she did finish that one. That was the 9th Reign. And so now Ariel has to decide between visiting the locked library, sounds exciting, and breaking into the main lab. I don't know. It's kind of interesting both ways, but I think Ariel is a little more someone who sticks by the rules. So she is not going to break into the main lab. She's going to go visit the locked library, and for that you read a book you already own, and Ariel will be reading Essence, which is the last book in the Rune series by Edna Walters. It's a little short story or a little novella, and it's the last book, and this follows Rain and Torin. So I love the series, and sadly the author Edna Walters did pass away in 2017, so there won't be any more in the series. But this was the last one. This was actually released in 2017, so it was the last one she wrote before she passed away. And basically the Rune series follows Rain, who is this one here, and Torin. So Rain is the main character. It's her and her 2 best friends, Cora and Eric. And Rain has 4 books and a novella in the series. Cora has 3 books and Eric has 3 books, but they all kind of show up in each of the books, and they all follow the same storyline, which is really fun. Rain is a high school student. She's on the swim team with both Cora and Eric, her best friend who lives next door. And she finds out that there are things like the Norse gods are real. There are Valkyries, and she has some powers of her own, and she has to figure out how to deal with them. This is the last book in the series, so I don't want to give away any spoilers. I highly recommend. It's very fun. It's a good palate cleanser. It's really interesting. It's intriguing. I like the writing style. Highly recommend the Rune series. This is Essence by Edna Walters. Okay, and then we have Karasu here. He's following the opposite path to Ariel, because it makes it a little more fun. Get to get a little bit more all over the map. So he did complete his Aurelium Academy in April, and then he traveled to Carador, where he had to read a book that finishes on an odd page number, and he did that by reading Plague of the Shattered. So now he has to decide if he's going to visit a wizard tower or to stop by the Crossroad Tavern. So he really would like to stop by the wizard tower and just to get some more learning, but Aurelium Academy really kind of burned him out. He needs a little bit of a break, and he's been working really hard, and so he has decided to stop by the Crossroad Tavern instead, and that is to read a book that has an author's note. And for that I am digging into the Brandon Sanderson's Arcanum Unbounded, and I've gotten through about this much so far at the beginning, but now we're going to move towards the end of the book here and read Edge Dancer, which is it takes place after and contains spoilers for Words of Radiance, but that's alright because I've already read that. So Edge Dancer. Oh, and I am keeping my place with my archivist, because Karasu is an archivist, with Aurelium Academy, and these beautiful bookmarks that G at Book Roast put together, and it has the Aurelium Academy symbol on the back as well. They are so shiny and beautiful. Now we move into the mini plethora of month-long readathons that I'm participating in June. Let me get my notes, because there's a lot of them. Okay, started filling in my cheat sheet a little bit here. Got my Adventures of Aeldia. And so then next is Once Upon a Readathon, and that is with Hannah Blackwell. And there are 4 different teams, so you get to choose a team. So you have 2 of the teams are allies on each side, and then you can attack the other 2 teams. So the 2 allied teams, you have the dragons and the djinn, and then on the other side you have the mermaids and the pirates. So the mermaids and the pirates could attack either the dragon or the djinn teams, and vice versa. I plan on being Team Dragon. So there's no real specific prompts for this readathon. All you have to do is, if you're Team Dragon, you read a bunch of books that have dragons in them. If you're Team Djinn, you read about djinn, mermaids, pirates. You get it. You get points by reading books with your team mascot, dragon, djinn, etc. And then you can also attack your enemies by reading books about them. So I could read mermaids or pirates books and then attack points towards those teams. I will mainly be kind of loosely participating in this one because there are so many other ones, but I do have quite a few books about dragons, djinns, mermaids, and pirates on my TBR, so that is exciting. I will try and read as many of the dragon books that I have. I have a lot, but most of them are physical reads, which means I will read through them a little slower. So if I can find some on an audiobook, I will, but my priority will still be to my TBR. So the book I did just finish that I had to return to Amazon for borrowing it, and that was The Reign of the Dragon Queen, and that is by Cadence Connor. And that was so good. I love that book. I haven't put it through Compile yet, but I'm pretty sure it's at least a 4.5 star, if not a 5 star. Such a good book. Loved it. It was very interesting. It was intriguing. It had betrayal. It has dragons. It has fighting. It has romance. It has politics and political intrigue and all of that. It was just very interesting. I highly recommend it, and I can't wait to read the second book in the series. Some of the other books that I'm planning to read are, let's see, Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, because I believe that has dragons, wyverns. I think that has something in there For some reason, I'm thinking there's dragons in that book. I could be wrong. We'll find out after I read it, because I got to read it anyway, so. Reaper's Gale by Stephen Erickson, because I know Malazan Book of the Fallen has dragons, so I'm hoping this book does as well. Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill, which is a great book. This will be a reread, but it's also part of the Howling Pack book club, so I will be reading that one. And I got this beautiful copy from the broken binding. Oh my gosh, it's so stunning. Look at that sword. So pretty. And the dragon egg. That's Callan, by the way. Yes. So good. And I actually just watched, I'll have to link it below as well. So I just watched an interview with Ryan Cahill with Mike's book reviews, and it was great. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes, but totally worth it. Ryan is an amazing human being and super funny. And what an amazing work ethic he has as well. Just constantly wanting to work and improve and learn and grow. Great guy. So then the final book with dragons would be The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan, because of course, The Dragon Reborn, right? It's at least referencing dragons if there aren't actual dragons in this particular book. But in the series there are, so very excited to read that one. And then for books with a Djinn, on hold at my library, I am waiting for The Spice Road by Maya Ibrahim. I'm hoping to get that one soon, but I also got, what is it? Happy Never Afters? Never After, which is this one here. And that one's got a genie lamp on it. So maybe that one. Interesting to see what that one will be like. That's the newest one I got for my Amazon borrows when I returned The Reign of the Dragon Queen. And then for books with the pirates and mermaids for attacking the other teams, I have on my list, I'm hoping to get to Hooked. I've been wanting to read that one for a while by Emily McIntyre. Rolling in the Deep by Myra Grant, because I read Into the Drowning Deep. I read that one not too long ago, and that was really good. And this is supposed to be kind of a prequel to it, a little prequel novella. So I definitely want to read that one. And then The Siren by Kira Cass, that was on my TBR a couple of months ago, and I did not get to it, so I'm hoping to get to that. But it's also part of another readathon as one of the host's favorites. So the next one up is the Back to Kindle readathon with Readers C and Reading with Rylan, and I will leave them linked below as well. There's 3 different tiers, and I believe, so each tier has a different amount of points assigned to them, and I believe you can choose prompts from any of the tiers, and then you just get those points. You don't have to just do all the prompts from tier 1. You can do 1 from tier 1, 2 from tier 2, 3 from tier 3, however you want to do that, and then just add up the points at the end. So let's see if I can get to and finish all of these books, because I really want to read down my Kindle. Some of them I do have the ebook and the audiobook, so that will help. So let's see what we got. Tier 1 is 5 points per book. The first one is a book club pick, and for that I am going to read Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, and that is the backlist book club pick for the month with covers with Cassidy. And then a host rated 5 stars, and that is The Siren by Kira Cass. The other option would be Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. Mine went blank there for a minute. And I do want to finish that series. That's one of the series that I want to complete in 2023. So I really want to get to that one too. So we'll see how that goes. And then a poll or a friend pick, and that is Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol. And then tier 2 is 3 points per book. And I believe you could probably do multiple books for the same prompt, but that I'm not sure. I'd have to listen to the announcement video again for that one. But indie published, and that's Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. Really looking forward to rereading that series. Multi-POV and Oathbringer. Could definitely have multiple POVs in that one by Brandon Sanderson. That's the 3rd book in the Stormlight Archive series. Book you've been putting off. Home by Nettie Okorafor. Not sure how you say that. Sorry if I totally butchered that. So that's the 2nd book in the Binti series, so I'm excited to continue that one, but it's been almost a year, I think, since I read the first book, so hopefully I remember everything. Low Expectations 4, and for that I'm going to read Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. This is another one I have the ebook and the audiobook for. So Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, and I appreciate and I like Alice in Wonderland to a point. I think I like the movies better than the book. So I don't have high expectations for Through the Looking Glass because it's the second book in the series, but I'm totally willing to give it a try. There are a few more prompts in here. So for tier 2, which is the 3 points each, I could also do a 2+ author, which if I have time, I may throw one of those in. I think I have a couple of books on my list already. I'll have to look at that. But I think that's the only one I didn't add to my list yet. For tier 3, there's an inclusive rep, so LGBTQIA+, BIPOC author, disability, etc. I didn't pick out a specific book for this because I'm not quite sure, but as I read through some of my books, I know I will find some of these reps in there and I will add the book then. And then there's 2 non-reading prompts that you can do. So you can join a host live sprint, and then you need to make sure you take a picture for proof for that. And then you can also read outside for 10 minutes with your favorite book, and that also you need to submit a picture for that. And for those 2 prompts, each prompt can be done 4 times max. So that's another option to gain more points. But for tier 3, the books that I picked, so I had to do a random number generator, and it came up as the number 7. I took my list, took out the ones I've already read. There were 10 left, did a roll, came up as 7, and that was Mary Poppins. So there we go. So I'll be reading Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. All right, so for cover by, I chose Awaken by Rachel Humphrey Daigle. But it was a little confusing because when you go to the actual book, the author's name says Humphrey Quinn, but it says it's the first book in the series. And on Goodreads, it comes up as this one, but as Awaken. And so the covers are actually different. The Goodreads cover is that one, but my Kindle cover calls it Heirs of Magic, but it's still the first book in the Fated Chronicles, and it still has the same author. But look at that. That is beautiful. The big old dragon eye looking through dragons on either side of that little circle. Oh my gosh, that's just beautiful. So here's another dragon book I can use for Once Upon a Readathon. Very excited for that. So yeah, a little confusing with covers and titles and author names, but it's the same book. And there we go. So next is comfort genre, and that I read Reign of the Dragon Queen by Cadence Connor because my comfort genre is fantasy. Title starts with an RRS because our hosts are reading with Rylan and readers C, so R and S. And for that, I'm going to read Reaper Man by Terry Pratchett, which is the 11th book, I believe, in the Discworld series. All right, next up we have Camp Seasonathon. Camp Seasonathon is with Kaylani Simply Me, and she has 2 other co-hosts along with her that they do the Seasonathon every year. I believe in September it's the Seasonathon Academy. So basically each season there's something going on for a readathon for them. And there's 3 hosts, there's 3 different cabins that you can choose from. I chose Camp Bailey. They each have different TBR games that they do, and so they create 10 prompts, and so you can look through the different prompts and see which cabin prompts work best for your reading needs. And for me that was Camp Bailey, and that's Kaylani Simply Me's dog. They're all named after their dogs, which is adorable. So the group book is Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood. Now I do have this on hold for my library, but it looks like I'm the 9th person on the wait list, so I am not holding out hope that I'm going to get this book before the end of June. So if I get it, great. If not, then I guess I just don't read the group book. Which is sad though, because I do really like Allie Hazelwood's books, so I've loved all of the ones I've read so far. One amazingly great thing about this readathon is you can double up on prompts, you can triple up, you can quadruple up. If you find one book that works for every single prompt, you only have to read one book. It's great. I love it. It helps for all of those of us who are participating in way too many readathons all at one time. First prompt is blindfold. So basically you put a blindfold on and you spin around and choose book at random. So what I did instead is, because I don't have a lot of physical books, they're mostly ebooks and audiobooks, so it's hard to physically move things around and point and whatever, because I've basically read all of these, except for a few right in here. So I put together 4 books that I wanted to read for this that are somewhat short, and then I did a random number generator, and the 4 books that I put on there, I have After the Bridge by Cassandra Clare, which is a little novella. Death and What Comes Next by Terry Pratchett, which is also a little novella. It's like the book 10 and a half. I think it's like 1 page, maybe 2 pages. Dark is the Water and Other Weird Tales, which I showcased earlier, by Susan Earlham. And then Home by Nettie Okorafor. And so those are the 4 I did. And it came up as book number 3, which again is Dark is the Water and Other Weird Tales, and that does not want to focus, but yes. Okay, so the next prompt is buddy read. So you can use the group book, which is Left Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood, but in case I don't get that in time, which I don't think I will, I am going to go with Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. So I have the physical book from my library as well as the audiobook, so I hopefully will fly through this a very long but extremely beautiful cover book, which I was looking at. So this is actually a collector's first edition. That's pretty exciting to find at the library. Yeah, but that is absolutely beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to reading Chain of Gold and continuing the Shadowhunter read along. Next up was a random color generator. So and it came up as turquoise green, and I actually had a few books that I could use for this one. So I could use Through the Looking Glass, because the book that I see on Goodreads when I first searched for it has some teal in there. There was a couple other books that I had that had that in there too, but I'm just gonna double up and go with Chain of Gold because it has that teal all over the whole book. So that's what I'm going with. And next up is multiple POVs. So just like the last Readathon prompt, I'll be reading Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I also have this on audiobook, so should be hopefully fairly decent to get through since it's a 1,200 page book, but very excited. It's worth every page, definitely. And then a big book, 500 plus pages. I really could use Chain of Gold or Oathbringer. I put Oathbringer down. And then a free pick, so you could pick whichever book you want. So I'm going with Edge Dancer again for this readathon. Let's get to the actual page here. Edge Dancer. And then for 5-star prediction, Oathbringer, definitely. And then for a gifted book, I'm going again with Awaken by Rachel Humphrey Daigle, or Humphrey Quinn apparently, also called Heirs of Magic. All right, 2 more prompts. So prompt number 9. Middle grade book. There's 2 I could choose from this one as well. So that is Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers is the one I chose, but I could also use Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. And then random number generator. Basically, I did a random number generator once for both prompts from the previous readathon and this one. And again, that was number 7. And that was Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. All right, so the next readathon, we're still going, is Adventurathon with K. Beth Bookish. Adventurathon looks super fun. You get to choose from so many different characters. It was hard to choose, but I did find one. And in Reign of the Dragon Queen, the dragon's name in that book is Aeldia, and I just thought that was an amazing name. So I am totally stealing that, and I am going to name my mage Aeldia. So Aeldia will be a mage. Once you've chosen your character, you then need to choose a tool. There's a couple of tools to choose from. You only need to do one. You need to choose a skill. I think there's 3 skills that you can choose from, but you only need to pick one. And then you need to start your quest and you need to end your quest. So that's the only 4 things you need to do to complete the readathon. There's multiple side quests that you can also do along with, depending on how many books you want to read. But I mean, I have 13 books on my regular TBR, so I might as well try and fit them all in, right? See how it goes. All the other prompts are extras, and if you want to do extra weapons or extra skills, you can do that as well. For the mage, the tools you could choose are a wand or a spell book. So for a wand, you need to have a magic item on the cover, and for that I chose The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. If I have time, then I will also choose a spell book, which the prompt is book on a cover, and for that I did I was pretty sure I saw one, and so I scoured. It's not on the copy that I have, but on one of the copies of David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, he is holding books. So I'm taking it. I'm already about 45% of the way through the book, so book on the cover, David Copperfield. Actually, the cover I have actually does have a book on it. Let me see if I can bring it back up. That's funny. This is just a total generic cover that Amazon puts on some of its classic books, but yeah. And the person's reading a book. So I guess I didn't need to look anyplace else because there's a book on the cover. That's all right. It was 20 minutes well spent, right? At least I was listening to the audiobook at the same time. It was fine. Okay, so skills. There's 3 different skills you could choose from. So for alchemy, which is 2 or more genres, I'm going to read Death and What Comes Next by Terry Pratchett, and that is a novella in between books 10 and 11 in the Discworld series, and that is fantasy and philosophy. Kind of fun. A little interesting. So I definitely count that as 2 different genres. And then you can also choose for your skill evocation, and that's an element. And I'll be reading The Siren by Kira Cass because water is an element. There's water on the cover, and the whole book is about water because she is a siren. And then the last one is Scrying, set in the future, and for that I chose Home by Nnedi Okorafor. For my starting quest, you need to read a book featuring magic, and again, I am choosing Awaken, aka Heirs of Magic, by Rachel Humphrey Daigle, aka Humphrey Quinn. And then for the final quest, you need to read a 2023 debut, and I will be reading Wayward by Amelia Hart, which I did just get the email this morning that hold came in the library, and I get to go pick that up this week, so very excited for that. Now for the side quests. So there's 5 different side quests that you can partake in if you choose. And the first one is learn the basics of magic. Read a high fantasy. That is an easy one. I have quite a few, but I will be reading Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. Study the Stars, set in space. And I'll be reading Home by Nnedi Okorafor. Apologize, I'm totally saying that wrong. Next one. Submit a research paper. Light or Dark Academia. And I don't know if this one really counts or not. I'm kind of hoping it does. If not, if it doesn't, I'll swap it out for something else later because I have to read this book anyway. But Light or Dark Academia, I'm going to count it because she's in a convent. Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. So it's kind of a convent, kind of has that school setting. We'll see. We'll give it a try. Okay, attend a magical academy, school setting. And for that, I chose Reign of the Dragon Queen by Cadence Connor, because when you bond with your dragon, you then go and you have to attend classes and learn how to train with your dragon, how to take care of your dragon, fighting skills and all of that. And then the last one is potion brewing, and this one is a non-reading prompt, and this is to create a drink for your character. Alcohol is optional. It could be just a regular drink. And so I have 2 different versions of this drink that I love, or that Alexia loves. And the first one, for the non-alcoholic one, it's a ginger beer. It's basically ginger ale, and just a drop of chocolate bitters, which is delicious. Or another option is a ginger beer or ginger ale with a slice of lemon in it. It just adds a little zing and it's delicious. And then the alcoholic drink is a ginger beer, peanut butter whiskey, just a shot, and a drop of chocolate bitters. It is amazing. This is one of those readathons that took me by surprise, came up on me in my feed and was like, hey, you should do this one. And I was like, no, not another readathon, but this one is so much fun and I have to participate. So the Tarot Readathon with Noelle 7 pages, and there's 4 different teams. So you have Wands, Cups, Swords, and Pentacles, and there's a little description for each of them, and then you choose which one you want to be on. And all of these readathons have Discord channels as well, so when you go to the announcement video for each of them, they'll have the Discord link down below. Team Pentacles, you can draw just 1 card. You can draw tarot cards as you go. You can draw a full 3, you can draw a 6, draw however many cards you want. I decided to go ahead and, since I already have 13 books on my TBR, I went and drew 6. We'll see if I get to all of them or not, but I'm very excited. So the first one was Justice. and that was a book that addresses a social issue, and for that I chose David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. The next card I drew was the Six of Swords, and that one is to read a book with a journey, and for that I will be reading The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan, because so far all of the real-time books, they are traveling from one place to another, so I am assuming this one there will be journeying as well. So then I drew the Nine of Cups, and that is a 5-star prediction, and that most definitely, like I chose for the last one, is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I have no doubt it'll be a 5-star book. Then I pulled the Emperor. So for these pulls I did use a random card generator for that, and the link is in the announcement video from Noel 7 Pages. So the Emperor is a book with a 1-word title, and for that I chose Awaken by Rachel Humphrey Daigle. Page of Pentacles was my next card, and that is the shortest book on your TBR, and for that I am choosing Voices of Poetry by J.R.R. Tolkien. So basically this is a collection of poems that is read by J.R.R. Tolkien, but is not written by him. It'll be really interesting. It's a 20-minute audiobook, and I'm very looking forward to listening to him read those. The next card I drew was Lovers, features a romance. I should just leave these books in my lap. So I'll be reading Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, because there's always romance in her books. Oh, and that was my last card, so that was the 6. So 2 things for Team Pentacles themselves. So each Pentacles upright card, every prompt counts for 25 points, which is great. And then Team Reversed card, your TBR must include a 500+ page book, while mine include 2. So Oathbringer and Chain of Gold are both over 500 pages, as is David Copperfield, so 3. So I think I got that one covered. We're good. Moving on to the next one. So Bookland Arcade with Books and Bops is a month-long readathon, although it did start in May. So it's May 20th to June 20th. So it's mainly takes place in June. So let me get my little cheat sheet here. So I made my own little cards. They have them available in a Google Doc for you. There's 4 different cards that you can choose from. You can only count books from 2 of the cards, so I only chose 2 of them. So we have the fantasy and sci-fi card, and then we have a thriller, mystery, horror cards. And so you add up all of the points from the books you read, and once you hit 50 points, then you get the final boss card. In May, I read in the thriller and horror, I read A Book You Know Nothing About, and for that I read Still Alive, and that was a bonus borrow from Hoopla. A book based around a group of people, so it has to be a thriller, mystery, or horror. And for that I read The Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. And then this side we have any sci-fi or fantasy, and I read For Fox's Sake. Finish a series, I read Gods. Multi-POV, Bow Before the Elf Queen, which is also a bonus borrow from Hoopla. Not published in the last 3 years, Eric, which is by Terry Pratchett. And then we have Planet on the Cover. I read The First Covenant, which is also another Hoopla bonus borrow. And then Urban Fantasy, Ghosts of the Shadow Market. So I had over 50 points, so then I got access to the final boss card. So this is basically going to be for June. You can go for just a bingo, one way, however way you do a bingo, or you could do a blackout, and of course it's me, so I'm going to go for the blackout. A book over 500 pages, and for that I have David Copperfield, mainly because I'm already started reading it. Read it in a day, and that one will be Voices of Poetry, because that's 20 minutes long. Buy or borrow a book and read it immediately, and for that I'm going to read Home, because that one is a Hoopla borrow from my library, so I will borrow it and then immediately listen to it. Recommended by 3 people, and for that is Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol. Someone else's fave, and for that I will read The Siren, which is the host's favorite from the Back to Kindle Readathon. Close Your Eyes and Pick, that's the same book that I picked for the blindfolded prompt from Camp Seasonathon, and that will be Dark is the Water and Other Weird Tales. I did read the next 2 already, and that was The Main Character Overcomes a Great Challenge, and I did read Edgewood, which was another bonus borrow for Hoopla in May. And then More Than 7 Colors on the Cover, Not the Rainbow. And this one definitely has 7, and that is The Last Striker. So that was another Hoopla bonus borrow for May. They had the first and second book all together in one, and they were both really good. First Covenant is the second book. And then title can spell your name or nickname. So trying to find a book that has the letters of my name is not easy. Because if you go with Deborah, that's a lot of letters. There's a lot of books that have the D and the E and then like all the rest, but they don't have a B. So I'm like, let's go with my nickname. There's only 5 letters, so Debbie. But trying to find a book with a D and a B and a Y, because I spell my name weird, I know it. Debyi. So I did finally find one, and that is After the Bridge, the full story. So you got to have the colon and the rest of it, the full title on there. But After the Bridge, so we've got D in bridge, we've got E in after, we've got B in bridge, we have Y in story, and then we have I in bridge. So After the Bridge by Cassandra Clare has Debyi in it. Yay! I found one. Not a single book on my TBR had all those letters. I think only 1 or 2 of them even had a B, and they didn't have a D with it, or they didn't have a Y. So, what you gonna do? But I'm very happy I found one, and it's fairly short. It's like a 32-page book, so nice. And it's part of the Shadowhunter readathon. Win-win all around. That is the last of The Final Boss by with part of the Bookland Arcade by Books and Bobs. Super fun. If you haven't checked out their channel, totally should. They're amazing. So if you love readathons and all things books, be sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more readathons and bookish things from me. And also, so you can see if I actually made it through any of these readathons or not. Are you participating in any readathons this month? I'd love to hear which ones you're participating in, and if you're participating in any of the same ones I am, I'd love to see what your TBR is for them and which different characters and traits that you chose. So make sure you leave a comment down below. All right, lastly, we have one weekend long readathon that I'm very excited about. So I think this is the second or third time I've participated in this. I want to say third time. I want to say this is the third time. I could be wrong. Might just be the second. But Stephanie at Bookverse, and it's the mini Star Hop. Very excited. I have it upside down. Here we go. So she gives you a little template that you can print out in either color or black and white, and I have a black and white printer, so I usually print mine out in black and white, but this time I decided to just make my own card since I already had some others made, and I don't have much room left in my reading journal, so it's a lot easier to do little tip-ins. And this is from June 9th through June 11th. Yeah, it's like 5 p.m. June 9th to 5 p.m. June 11th, so it's over that weekend, this coming weekend. It's almost here, actually. Okay, roll number 1 for Mini Star Hop Readathon. 1. And that is a star prompt, and I have all my prompts actually on the back side of my card here. So here's my star prompts, and I'm going to roll an 10-sided die, see what prompt I get. And it's a 4, and that is an audiobook. Okay, so roll number 1 was a 1. So it's the star right at the start. That's where you start. Roll number 1. I got a star prompt, and I have all of my prompts listed here. So my star prompts, I did roll a 10-sided die because I have 10 prompts for each of them, and I rolled a 4. And for that, it's to read an audiobook. And I will be reading Voices of Poetry, Volume 1 by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I'm very excited because I will be able to get through that right away and move into my next roll, which will be great. So this TBR is basically a roll as you go. So you roll one, you read it. You roll the next one, you read it. And if you reach the end, then you get a free pick, and then after you read that, you've completed your TBR. So depending on how many rolls you do, you can only do 1 6-sided die. The minimum is 3 books that you would have to read, and depending on how things go, like if you just keep rolling a 1, like my first roll, it's going to take a while to get through it. But you could roll some extra 6s and make it through fairly quickly as well. So that is all of the readathons that I am participating in June, and I hope I survive. I think I will. I think so. Okay. Well, if I make it through, you'll find out in my wrap-up video. And thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited. I am almost at 200 subscribers, so thank you all so much for joining me every week to watch my videos and to comment and share the love. And I appreciate you so, so much. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!